Oh, sorry. Okay. So we completed block one, which was mainly talking about what is OD, what are the characteristics of OD, what is the nature of OD, and some of the important processes like job design, action research, and various approaches for the action research, various types of job designs in the block one, right? And then we went to block two, which was mainly concentrating on these values and those kind of aspects. So which went through empowerment, participation, and those kind of things, right? We also went through the change as a whole, not normative, no, what do you say, redesign or normative. What is that? I forgot the full name, but basically it is like normatively you are changing the norms
Representative.
as, yeah, right. So we went through all those things. Now we are going through block three of organizational development. So as of now, we are going to take unit one little later. We are going through unit two as to start with. So unit two is talking about diagnosis, right? OD is a very elaborate process. So it is very scientific as well. So diagnosis as such is something very important. And diagnosis at what level? At the organization level, because OD is it is a process which involves entire organization, right? So what is diagnosis? The first thing is about definition of diagnosis. This is one of the very important question. Define diagnosis. Okay. So what is diagnosis? It is about way of determining the gap between the current and desired performance, and also understand ways in which goals of the organization can be achieved. So what you are actually doing, you are just understanding the gap between what it is right now and what it could be. And also you are just understanding the ways to implement the goals of an organization. So that is what is diagnosis, right? So guy called us, I mean, two guys, Cummins and Orley, they told that this is actually a systematic collection of data. So how you are going to do the diagnosis? You are going to collect the data. So it is a systematic collection to determine current state, so that you can analyze whether there is any gap between future state or not, right? And this allows managers, consultants, and all others to increase the overall effectiveness of the organization. So that is what is the definition of diagnosis. This is one of the most repeated questions. Okay. So now we are going to next question, which is also one of the most repetitive question, which is purpose of carrying out diagnosis. As such, we all know what is the purpose, and to some extent, I kind of already explained. Right, diagnosis is one of the very important core process as far as OD is concerned. Right. So if you have to actually implement anything, I mean, it being a scientific process, you require to diagnose, right? Any intervention that you actually try to implement, it is actually a result of whatever the diagnosis that you do, right? So it is a very core process of the entire OD, and it gives what is the current state of the organization, how these subsystems within the organizations are working together, right? And for each subsystem, it is going to tell what kind of improvements that it could be done, and what is the effectiveness of the current implementations, right? So so it is definitely required when we are talking about a very changing environment, and it is something which is continuously required as well. So it is not one time diagnosis that you do for an organization. You'll have to periodically do it, so that you are actually keeping up to the pace of changing environment. This is VUCA world. In this VUCA world, diagnosis forms a very important role. So it obviously, every diagnosis is not of an equal importance. It depends on the situation. It depends on what you are diagnosing, right? So it depends on the situation and also what you are doing. So the overall purposes, you understand the function, you understand the process of the organization, you understand how growth is happening, how organization effectiveness is being, whether there is a productivity or whether it is problem solving, right? And it could be that you are just checking the feedback of a particular intervention strategy, or else you are just checking feasibility of implementing an intervention strategy, right? You want to understand the overall culture. So all these things are something which are that can be purposes of the diagnosis. So this is the purpose of carrying out diagnosis. Again, this is one of the most important questions that we are going to get. Define diagnosis and purpose. These two are very, very important in this particular unit. Okay. So now going beyond. So we now understood what is the purpose of diagnosis, right? What are the phases of diagnosis? This was also asked question, not as frequently as the above two, but this is also
Praveen,
something
one
which
more
was
second
asked.
on the purposes. Just can you scroll up for 1 minute? Purposes. So you covered these points, or you will just do it later?
So I covered all these points.
Okay.
I kind of talked about all these, whatever that is there.
Okay. Let's proceed. Thank you.
Okay, so now we are going into phases of diagnosis. So this is also an important part, important one, which was asked thrice. Okay, but not as important as the above two, because above two has been asked like almost 6-7 times kind of a thing. Almost every exam there is a question on diagnosis. Okay, so now we are going into phases of diagnosis. So there are 3 phases of diagnosis. Okay, one is entry. So what entry means? Basically, you are quickly grasping what exactly is the organization, what exactly your purpose of diagnosis, basically, right? What do you want to diagnosis? And if you have to diagnose something, whom you should actually catch hold of, where you should begin, right? And which all systems that you need to actually collect information about, right? So basically, what are the roles of people who can give what kind of data? So all these things forms under are coming under entry phase. So even before you collecting the data, you are actually understanding the field where you are going to collect the data. That is what entry is, right? So it is a preparatory stage before you collect the data. So now collection of data is the second phase, right? So collection of data is very well understood as the term, right? It can be carried out. Basically, so there is anyway preliminary information that you already carried out in the entry, right? Where to collect this data and all those stuff. So this is going to follow the direction whatever that is set during the entry phase. Okay, and collection of data happens in a very systematic way. So you will use multiple tools like questionnaires, interviews, observations, focused group discussions. So there are various ways you can actually collect the data, right? And how to collect data is also something that you're actually determining in this particular thing where, right? So you're going to contact members and systems, whatever that you determined in the entry phase, and you are going to methodological method. You will follow the methodology, whatever that suits the purpose, right? I mean, certain stakeholders, you might actually conduct interviews. For certain type of data, you might actually conduct workshops, etc., etc., right? And even tools like conducting problem solving workshops, seminars, training programs, right? These are all also some ways where you could actually collect data, so that you understand problem, you understand what how people are thinking about the problem and all those stuff, right? So the third stage, so first is entry, second is data collection, third is feedback. Okay, so what is feedback? Now you found something as far as your data collection is concerned, right? So now you need to understand what the data is saying, prepare a report, and then tell the relevant parties that this is what I found in the entire data, right? So this is like, I mean, basically this is the process where you are analyzing the data. Okay, so whatever that you found in the meetings, whatever that you got from the feedback, from the surveys and all those stuff, consultant would actually take this particular data and he would actually prepare the report. and then he will conduct meetings with the relevant stakeholders to explain whatever that he has found. Okay, so basically, so feedback design. So this is something that is very common and very much used in the family groups. If you remember, what is family groups? Family groups are the teams which are going to be permanent. So in that, they would actually go and reports would be prepared and it would be explained to the supervisors, because in permanent groups, there is actually a hierarchy which is well defined, right? It is generally the leadership which would be interested in knowing how their family groups are doing, right? So, so that is what is about feedback. So, I mean, the things that you would really require to know is entry is the preparatory stage. Data collection is something that is the one which is actually going into details in terms of collecting the data. Feedback is about analyzing the data and reporting to relevant people. Okay, so that is about phases of diagnosis. So now we covered three questions, three important questions. Defining the diagnosis. Second, purpose of carrying out diagnosis in the organization. Okay, so these two, and then phases of diagnosis. So now we are going into the next thing, which is organization processes that needs to be diagnosed. Actually speaking, every other process, whatever that is involved in your organization, needs to be diagnosed. Okay, think of any activity that organization needs to do. Goal setting, I need to diagnose how best I can do the goal setting, right? Whether goal setting that I have done is working or not. Performance, I need to diagnose how people are performing. I need to diagnose how my managers are working. I need to diagnose how the culture is going on. Every other thing, whatever that you remember as an organizational process, you can say that it needs to be diagnosed. So I think it is very, very straightforward. You can write all the crap when you are talking about this particular question. So everything, communication, how communication is happening, how decision making is happening, how people are solving the problem, whether conflicts are being resolved or not, right? What is the relationship between management and the subordinates? Is there, I mean, something that could be improved? Whether my strategy is managed correctly or not, right? Whether I have a long range planning, whether I have right technologies deployed, everything and anything about organization you can put as something that needs to be diagnosed. Okay, so if this question comes, I think there is a lot of rewriting that could be done. Okay, so now the last part of this particular thing, okay, which is a model, 6-box model, which is which has actually come which was defined by Weisberg. Okay, I will explain this particular model in another unit because it fits better in that particular unit. Okay, so this talks about 6. So I'll give you the context of it. Okay, so this is actually Weisberg came up with 6 aspects of an organization that needs to be queried on. So basically, using these 6 aspects, anything and everything that can be queried, you need to see if these 6 aspects are something that you query on a particular thing, then you are more or less you will get all the answers. So when you are conducting a diagnosis, these are the 6 aspects that you diagnosed. One, purpose. What is the purpose of this? Right? You inquire or diagnose from the point of view of purpose, right? Whether my purpose is right, whether it is setting right priorities, whether my vision is going in the right direction. Second, relationship, right? So what is the relationship, whether the relationships in this particular process is going right or not, whether managers are communicating good, whether supervisors, whether whether people are talking to each other, whether teams are like communicating or rather having a relationship, healthy relationship, etc., etc. So this is not in a particular context. I'm talking about these 6 boxes in all the context, any diagnosis for that matter. The other box is leadership. So here you are actually checking whether the leadership who is driving this particular process Are they actually doing good? Are they light leaders? What is the style of their leadership, etc. Right? And the other one is structure. So structure is basically it is talking about whether whatever the organizational structure that I have, is it going to suit to the task and functions, whatever that is expected out of this. So structure is another aspect which you actually inquire or diagnose. Helping mechanisms. Are there tools for people to take help? Right? It could be documentation, it could be some technical tools, it could be people who are helping others, etc., etc. So whether the helping mechanisms are there or not for employees to do this. Rewards. So when they do it right, are we giving right rewards? Whether the people are motivated enough to get those particular rewards, whether they are actually, whether they are enough. I mean, do they have enough balance? Basically, are people happy, motivated, accountable, etc. Right? So these are the 6 boxes which Weisberg talks about, which every process or every thing that could be diagnosed from these 6 dimensions. So these are, you can say, as 6 dimensions in which you actually query on any and everything as far as OD is concerned. So that's about unit 1. So we are done with the unit 1. Okay. Should we go to unit 2?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, I mean, sorry, this
No,
is
no,
the unit
are you
2 where
tired?
6. No. I'm not. So we can go. So basically, this is unit 2.
Yeah,
Now
we
we are
go to
going into
unit
unit 3. Okay. So unit 3 is a very, very familiar unit for all of us. Okay. Because so it talks about change management. Okay. So it starts with concept of the change. Okay. And so concept of organizational change. This is also an important question, right? So it explains what is change. So change does have so I think first thing is about the definition of change, right? So what is change? There is something that you have as a current, and it is a process that you actually follow to achieve to go towards something you desire. That is what is change, right? So there are 4 areas as far as this change is concerned. So actually speaking, definition of change is covered in another unit, which is I think unit 4 of block 2 or something like that. Okay. So I don't know why they split across this particular block, but so when you ask about concept of change, you can probably start with the definition of change and talk about main areas of change and those kind of things, right? So there are 4 major areas, main focus areas when you talk about change. First, changing the organizational structure. 2, any new technologies that you want to actually get into, so any technology change. 3, do you want to change the work environment completely, right? And then 4, changing the culture itself, right? What people believe, what their attitude is, how do you actually, I mean, what are the parameters that you use to actually recruit people, all those things. So people aspect. 1, structure. 2, technology. 3, environment, that is work environment. 4, people. So these are the 4 main areas as far as the change is concerned, right? So, so at a particular time, there could be many changes that organization might be driving at, right? So you could have a technology change, and parallelly you could have a structural change and all those stuff, right? And effective management, so needs to deal with this particular change in the right way, right? So basically, unless and until change is dealt in the right way, as management cannot be effective, right? And change agents are nothing but these are crucial players who are going to be playing an important role as far as change is concerned. I mean, it could be managers, it could be some I mean, consultants who would have come to actually promote the change, or it could be tools, it could be some campaigns or whatever it is, right? So change agents play an important role in the whole process. So you need to carefully select your change agents so that your change can be rightfully implemented. Okay, so what according to Robbins, change agents are individuals who act as catalyst. and assume responsibility for change management activities. That is what Robbins told about change agents. Change agents are definitely required for any change to happen. So these are the ones who are going to act as a catalyst for any change. Okay, so this is about concept of change. So again, when we talk about concept of change, you're going to talk about four main focus areas, and then you're going to talk about change agents, right? And you are going to talk about importance of managing the change. Basically, it is for an effective management, change needs to be managed in an effective way, and there could be many changes that could be happening within an organization, etc. So these are the things that you need to cover when we are talking about concept of change. Okay. So on top of it, any definitions that you remember on change, etc., whatever that you could actually talk about change, you can actually talk on the concept angle. So all crap that we would have actually read during OB, other units, etc., any examples, interesting things, all things can be stopped here. So now we are going to change can be, so basically this is another aspect which could come under the concept of change itself, right? So so this is when you are actually explaining a change, you can explain the change in these three aspects, 3 points. One, so basically change generally happens because there are actually certain forces, whether it is inside or outside. These are the ones which are going to take your change, right? So this is what would actually change things, right? Those internal and external factors. So internal and external forces. So external forces could be like there is a technology which came into picture, hence you require a change, right? There is some economic crisis that is happening, hence you require a change. These are external forces. Internal, right? The leadership change, or some relationships which needs to be repaired, right? Or culture needs to be changed within an organization, or the equipment was it requires some kind of a change. So these are the internal changes. So these two factors really play a part when you are actually talking about what you are changing, right? And whole organization is affected by the change. Okay, so whenever there is a change, even if one department is changing, it would have a ripple effect. So there could be, I mean, it could be having that, okay, a small team is undergoing a change, or a particular department is undergoing a change. It doesn't mean that the entire organization is not impacted, right? Any change within a department could have a ripple effect, because all these things are interdependent. So entire organization is having some particular purpose of the department, right? If the department is changed, it would have a ripple effect on entire organization, right? And one more aspect here is change happens at its own rate in each unit. So you might have multiple units. The same change could happen at a different rate. Maybe a particular unit might be able to adapt this change in a faster way. The other unit or other division of the same organization might actually take time to adapt. So adaptation would actually have different pace as far as the change is concerned, right? And change would so what are the aspects which change is dependent on? Change is dependent on, first thing, employees. If employees are genuine and hardworking, it really makes a lot of difference. Two, willingness of employees to develop. So how motivated your employees are, right? That would actually make a difference. Three, leadership. So leadership would actually have a lot of effect, right? And it is going to have a great influence on the employees, right? Next one is need for change. So basically, if you diagnose, and diagnose in a right way, and identify why this particular change needs to be done, that is going to improve your situation quite a lot, right? And commitment of leaders. So it's not just about leader being effective, it is also leader should be committed enough to fully participate and make sure change is carried. right? So these are the factors or aspects which is going to make a difference as far as change is concerned. Okay, so this completes the first aspect, that is concept of change. Concept of change comes to all these particular aspects. Okay, so now coming to, we are actually going into the next one, which is preparation before implementing the change. Okay, so preparation before implementing the change is an important question. Okay, it was asked multiple times. Okay, so there are multiple preparatory steps. First, you should ensure that employees are participation I mean employees are participating. Effective participation is the first and foremost aspect. Two, you need to plan effectively. Three, you need to take employees interest into the picture, right? So, and four, you need to understand the group dynamics, both formal and informal. So there would be a formal groups, there would be informal groups. So you should not really, you should not ignore both formal and informal groups. So you need to take both formal and informal group dynamics into picture, right? So you need to have a systematic implementation plan for this particular change. Okay, and your employee should be sufficiently motivated before this change. So you need to be highlighting clear benefits to them so that employees are well versed with what exactly is the change that is happening. They should be trained. They should have sufficient skills. So before you getting some technology change, make sure that they are skilled enough on that technology so that they can confidently face it, right? So, so, so the training and development activities are important. And then you need to actually understand what are the risks, what are the benefits. Okay, and you should have proper communication to the employees on both of the aspects, right? So not just about telling the benefits of it, you should actually tell the employees what are the anticipated risks, what exactly are the benefits that they are going to get. Both the aspects needs to be clear for the employees. Okay, and you should be able to understand. So we already read in the other unit on resistance of change, right? So you should be able to understand where the resistance of change could come, what are the possible reasons, and what I should do to actually reduce that resistance. So that needs to be understood even before going and implementing the change, right? And you should constantly focus on the process of change. So while you are implementing the change, you need to actually have a very keen focus on how you're going to implement that particular change. The focus needs to be having a constant focus even while you are implementing, right? And you should have interaction with the leaders, supervisors in the organization, because these are very important stakeholders in majority of the change. So they form crucial change agents, right? So this is about preparation before implementing the change. Okay, I think all the points are self-explanatory. If you read through points, I think we can easily replicate it. Okay, and this is an important question. No, none of the points are very tricky to understand. They are all very self-explanatory. So now we are going to resistance of change. This we already read through as far as resistance is concerned, but anyway, a very brief paragraph which talks about resistance of change. Here there are multiple factors that could be influencing or resisting the change. First and foremost is economic factor, because people might fear that they are losing job, they might be losing salary, they might be losing certain rewards, etc., etc. Right. Second is psychological factors, because they are very tied up in maybe the previous change was brought by them, so they are emotionally attached to it. Now they don't want any new factor as far as the as far as their ego is concerned, right? So they do have a very less tolerance, and they have a fear of, I mean, that confidence is not there on the new aspect, right? Social factors. Okay, so they might actually feel that they have good connections, they have good relationships, so they are worried if they actually move, how exactly their pride would be affected in their particular social circles. So all those social factors would come into picture. Group resistance. So this typically happens that one or the other in the group would actually have an opinion saying that this is bad, and the entire group follows him. saying that, oh, yeah, I need to actually follow the group. So there is a group dynamic that really works, right? Typically, it happens in political parties. Whatever BJP does, Congress opposes. Whatever Congress does, BJP opposes. So one in the group would actually say some, point. Nobody cares whether it is a valid point or stupid point. They will just blindly follow with the group, saying that, okay, yes, we actually oppose it. We don't want this, right? So that is how those are the four things as far as the resistance of change is concerned. So now we are going into strategies of change. I mean, basically, what are the strategies of change? There are four again. Okay. So strategies for change. One is shaping the future. You need to actually, what is all change? You are actually shaping the future for it, right? And you are selecting the core competencies. You are making structural changes. You are changing the work processes. And these are the four things, 4 points. Okay. Fortunately or unfortunately, there is not much of an elaboration on this, but these 4 points are very straightforward, and there is no question on that as well. Okay. So going into most important aspect of this entire unit. So now we are talking about models of change. Okay. So there are few familiar models. One, Levin's model. If you remember, we talked about Levin's model in one of the earlier units. Okay, so it has got three phases. First phase is unfreezing. Second phase is changing or transformation. Third phase is refreezing, right? So first phase is about doing the preliminary analysis before the change, right? So this is about you doing the diagnosis, gather the data, plan whatever the change that you are actually doing, etc. The second part of change is doing the actual change. This is when you are actually transforming yourself. Okay. And the third phase is refreezing, where you are trying to actually see the output and trying to actually judge what exactly you are supposed to do and give a feedback to your transformation, give a feedback to your input, etc. And between these particular stages, right, there is a feedback loop that is established between every two phases. Depending on output, you will change the way you do it, right? So there is a feedback loop between output and transformation, or rather rephrasing and changing. There is a feedback loop between action. While you are doing the action, you might feel that you might have to change certain planning aspect. You might want to actually change the plan itself, because while doing action, you found that there is something wrong. This plan is wrong, right? So there is a feedback loop between transformation and input. Similarly, there is a feedback loop between output and input as well, right? So based on results, you found that your plan itself is crap. So that is the feedback loop that goes into plan. So this is what is Levin's change model. Okay. So now I think this is the most, what do you say, well-known change model that we went through. Kotter's 8-step plan. If you remember, we talked about 8 steps, which it starts about, create the urgency, etc., etc. There are 8 steps which Kotter talks about. All are basic 8 steps, right? So this is the same theory as whatever that we had in OB, those 8 steps. Okay, so we can refer to the same 8 steps and replicate it here. Okay, so so I mean, it talks about those. First thing is you need to probably advertise, or rather you need to you need to create that urgency. You need to tell people how urgent the change is, and then you need to accumulate team. You need to actually form the vision. Okay, and you need to actually go and empower people. You need to communicate. You need to empower, right? So there are 8 steps which it talks, and last two are like you need to sustain. So basically you need to make sure that the change goes on, and the third thing is you need to actually make sure that change sustains, right? So there are actually 8 steps. We can probably refer to the same 8 steps. I think most of you might be aware of those particular 8 steps, so I'm not going in detail for it. Okay. So now again, it comes to this Weisberg 6-box model. This is also something that I went through, right? So it talks about, it is a diagnostic tool which highlights 6 areas that you need to actually diagnose, right? We talked about these 6 areas: purpose, relationships, leadership, structure, helping mechanism, right? And rewards. These are the 6 boxes that you definitely will have to diagnose. Okay. So this is again same thing, whatever that I talked about in the other unit. So I'm not explaining again. Okay. Because we went through all these 6 boxes there. So now comes Greiner's model. Okay. So without much effort, I think we covered 3 models which we are already familiar on. So now comes unfamiliar models, right? So now Greiner's. So Greiner model is mainly in and around growth factor. Okay. So what he said is there are, every organization has got 6 phases to go through. When I start the organization, it starts with phase 1. As my organization mature, I go through phase by phase, step by step. And at each phase, I will have, I will learn something, but I will have a trouble on some other factor. And fixing the trouble will make me elevate to next phase. If I manage to fix that, say, let's say if I have, I'll give you an example. Okay. So phase 1 is about creativity. So this is where founder, whoever started the company, he came with a creative idea and he established the organization, right? So this is where it starts. It starts with the creativity of the founder, whoever founded it. Okay. But while it is actually going through this creativity, once it is established, now the first problem that organization would face is the leadership. Okay. So it starts with leadership as a problem. Okay. Does it have a right leader? Whether leader is guiding this creativity in the right direction or not, right? So basically, you might have a best idea, but you don't know how to actually guide team. You don't know how to actually create that particular, a leadership where you are actually making people work towards that particular creative goal, right? So this is the first problem that any organization would face in phase 1. Once you solve the leadership, yes, so now the organization enters into phase 2. So that means organization has grown from phase 1 to phase 2. It has evolved itself. Okay, so in this particular phase, the phase is called as direction. Basically, organization is now have direction because leadership problem is solved. That is why it is directed in the right way. But new problem starts, which is autonomy. So now people have direction, but can they independently work? Maybe leader is guiding everything. What if leader is absent? Can people do by themselves? Because if organization has to grow, they need to actually solve this autonomy problem. If they manage to solve this autonomy problem, they will enter phase 3, which is delegation. So now they can independently work, but can they actually grow by delegating to even subordinates? Right? Can they delegate this particular autonomy? Can they actually empower their particular subordinates so that they can actually, elevate to the next level? So the problem that comes is in this, I mean, so once they have autonomy, they have this delegation, but they have new problem that would be coming, that is control. So now you delegated, everybody is independently working, but at an organization, do you have control? Right now there are a lot of teams which are there, everybody has got their own things delegated, they can independently work. How do you ensure that they have sufficient control and going towards the right goal, right? So this is where crisis of control will start. If you solve the problem of crisis of control, you will enter into fourth phase, which is coordination. Okay. So now in coordination, so you establish control. What it means, now leader knows how exactly he can get things aligned within these particular units. Rather, he knows how what is the reporting mechanism, how exactly these teams are actually coordinating with the leader. That is established. Okay. So now goes into a crisis of red tape. So red tape is nothing but too much of control, right? Basically, is it like leader being having tighter control on all these particular autonomy? I mean, is it some red taping that would be required? So if organization solves red tape, they enter the phase called as collaboration. Now they can collaborate with each other in a better way, right? There is no red taping required, but still control is there. People are coordinating between themselves, and also there is a sufficient amount of autonomy that would be there. Now the last phase is the growth phase. So this is where organization grows beyond its current stage, forming alliances with the other organizations. So now the growth crisis is solved when you actually enter into alliances. Okay, so these are multiple phases. So everything Greiner model is dependent on the growth. Each phase is like taking organization into next level, and each phase does have a crisis that needs to be addressed. If that crisis is addressed, it is going into next phase. That's the concept of this model. Okay, so now we are going into the Cumming and Worley model. Okay, so Cumming and Worley model has got 5 different areas of change, right? So basically what he says is, so these are the 5 important areas as far as change is concerned. Okay, first, motivation, right? Is your change, is are people sufficiently motivated? Okay, whether did you manage to sensitize people about this particular change, and you also have they also have sufficient understanding on what is this particular change, right? Creating a vision. Okay, did you manage to create, or rather make people visualize how the future looks, right? Can they actually see the vision that you have, right? So that is what is the creating the vision. Third one, developing political support. Okay, so now this is actually talking about these change agents which I talked about, and also resistance of change that we talked about. In resistance of change, we actually talked about one theory which actually talks about you need to recognize who which are the forces, right? That force analysis, which are the forces which are going to resist the changes. So this is about you are identifying key players, whether it is change agent or the root causes for the resistance or whoever it is, and then garnering the support. So you are actually getting the support from them so that your change is successful, right? And fourth one is managing the transition. So you should, so now change is about transition, right? People are transforming. To make sure that you manage this transition in a smooth manner, right? People should be enabled. People should actually go step by step, right? You should have sufficient plan to track this particular management. Managing this transition is very, very important, right? The last aspect is sustaining the momentum. So now you actually gained some momentum. People are going towards the change. This momentum needs to be sustained. You make sure that these gains are continuously highlighted to people, continuously reminded to people, because they don't forget and take this particular change lightly, right? So you need to actually sustain the momentum of it. So these are the 5 important areas as far as change is concerned. That is what is Cummings and Worley model. Okay, so now we are going towards Burke and Litwit model of organizational change. Okay, so this is mainly about performance and the factors that would actually influence the performance. Okay, so it is about link between these two aspects is what Burke and Litwit really came up. Okay, so what they told is there are actually multiple factors, okay, which needs to be taken care, so that it actually creates the right performance. So there are 12 dimensions, okay, that needs to be practiced, so that these factors, basically these are the factors that you could actually say, which are going to be playing an important role as far as overall performance of change, right? So so if you want to change the performance, these are the 12 factors that you need to to be keeping in mind? First thing, external environment, right? So, what are the factors which are going to impact your organization? That is the first factor. Second, mission and strategy. Whether you are whether you have right mission and strategy, whether it is taking care of employees, right? So that is what is the second factor. Third factor is leadership. You need to have right leadership. Fourth factor is culture. Fifth factor is structure of your organization. Sixth factor is systems, which includes your overall policies, procedures, right? Everything in and around people and also operations, how you are actually operating. All these things come under systems. Management practices, how your typically managers really act, practice the management stuff. Eighth, work unit climate. Okay, so work unit climate is like, again, this is another word for mental model that we talked about in earlier unit. So this is about how employees think and what they expect from the organization. So it is like a mental model of this particular work, or rather the organization for the employees. Nine, tasks and skills. What kind of tasks that employees are supposed to do? Do they have enough skills? 10, individual values and needs. So these are like values and needs which are going to play an important role as far as their performance is concerned. Motivation level, individual and overall performance. So these are the 12 factors which are linked with the change in performance of an organization. That is what work and retweet model really talks about. So rather these 12 factors or 12 dimensions are clear, the challenge in this particular model is we might have to actually remember a lot of pointers to make these 12 factors, right? So basically none of them are tough, but it is just that we will have to probably remember. Fortunately, these models are not really specifically asked in recent times. Okay, so the question that came as far as the recent thing is, write any two models. So fortunately, they don't specify any particular model. It's not that they never asked, they asked particular model name for Brook and Litwin. They asked in 2015. In 2016, they asked Greiner's model. Okay, so after 2016, they didn't ask any specific model here. Levin's model is the only one. Kotter's 8-step plan is the other one, which are important. Okay, but fortunately, Levin's model and also Kotter's are very easy things to remember. So even if the question comes like write any two models of change, you could actually choose whatever the models that you remember. Okay, so so now we are going to the last model, which is John Fisher model. So what he says is he is more looking from the employee point of view. Okay, so until now, what we talked about, the change model is more looking at what are the factors which are going to implement, right? How change goes through various processes, right? So those kind of things. Now, this guy wanted to look from the employee point of view. He tells that employee will actually go through a curve, various psychological states. Okay, so and so as change goes on, he is going from the stage where, okay, first as soon as he listens the change, he will have anxiety. He will think, can I actually do this? Second thought that is going to come is he's happy, saying that, okay, yeah, organization is doing something, because assumption is the organization would have actually told a lot of advantages. He's happy about overall change. Okay, now third emotion that he's going to have is now fear. Okay, I mean, I need to learn new things, how it is going to impact me. The fourth, then he enters the stage of threat, then he enters the stage of guilt, then he goes into depression. If this depression is not properly managed, he might actually go into disillusionment. Okay, if it is properly managed, then he would actually go into acceptance stage, and then he will move forward. So this is like set of stages, or rather a curve, which employees would actually go through. So the speed of change is more about how soon you could actually overcome this curve, how soon you can actually take through this particular curve as far as employees are concerned, right? So this transitioning is what would actually make change fast or slow. So this is about unit 3. Okay, it's all about change. We talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 change models. In that, 3 change models are something that we know, and 4 change models are new. Okay, so this is about unit 3. Okay, should we transition to the last unit?
Yes.
Okay, so now we are going through the next unit, which is called as program evaluation process in OD. Okay, so now what is program evaluation? By this name itself, you could actually pick up certain points, right? So some guy called as Payton defined this program evaluation as a systematic collection of information about activities, characteristics, outcomes of a particular program. So you are taking a program and you are evaluating the program on from the point of view of, okay, what are the activities this program is going to do? What exactly are the characteristics, right? How program is going to give an output or outcome, right? And why this program evaluation is done? This program evaluation is generally done to improve the overall effectiveness of the organization. Okay, so it is like a evaluative inquiry of an ongoing process or a program, so that I mean, so that it is actually doing it in the right way, right? So this is about understanding critical organizational issues within that particular process, right? So this is like a learning exercise as far as organization is concerned, and anything and everything you can write one word. It is very systematic and scientific. Okay, so this is also a systematic and scientific process. It plays a very important role in helping managers to improve efficiency. So it is like evaluating a particular program. So it is going to help managers, right? So it would also help to solve their internal conflicts. So in anything and everything about program, it would actually help them to actually solve. So that is about definition of program evaluation. So this is generally a question for 2 marks. Okay, so now we are going into strategies of program evaluation. Okay, so there are actually 4 strategies, which is not explained in detail, but so these are like 4 strategies which are possible as far as the program evaluation is concerned. It was never asked as well. There is a short description which says that. Hello, am I there?
Yes.
Yeah, first thing is scientific and experimental model. The second thing is management oriented system model. The third thing is the quantitative model. Fourth thing is participant oriented model, qualitative model and participated oriented model. So, I mean, so taking a dig or a guess about whatever the strategies. First is whether your program is in scientific in nature, whether it is practically implementable or not, goes into scientific and experimental model. Second thing is, okay, whether it is something that management wants, something that would fit into the system, right? And the third thing is whether it can derive the quality whatever that is required. And fourth thing is it taking participants into consideration, that is participant oriented models. Okay, so these are the 4 strategies of program evaluation. So fortunately there is nothing much and never came in exam. Okay, so going into the next one, types of evaluation. Okay, what are the various types of program evaluation that is done? One is formative evaluation. Okay, so this is something, purpose of this evaluation is whether program is formulated in a right way or not, whether it is developed or whether it is having all the right quadrants or not. It is just checking the form of the program as such. So that is what is formative evaluation, right? So it uses various methods while you are evaluating this. You might actually talk to various stakeholders. You might gather data about the program itself, what program needs, what exactly its vision, and all those stuff. Okay, and then you, and then you actually go and analyze whether program is well designed or not. That is formative evaluation. The second one is implementation evaluation, right? Name itself is says this is focusing on implementing this particular program, whether it is something to stay, okay, whether it is going to persist as a program, is it practically implementable, right? And is there any past literature which talks about, so this is, so you're not going to check this particular whether implementable or not after implementing it, right? You're going to do it little early. When you are doing little early, how you are going to check this? You are going to check history. Did somebody do this? What are the problems that they faced, right? And then even while implementing, you might be seeing whether it is going in the right direction or not, right? So these are the three things that you do. The next one is summative evaluation. Summative evaluation is nothing but which is concentrating on outcomes of the program, whether the outcomes are something which are right, whether they are actually coming in the right way or not, right? So this is mainly outcome focused. So there are four directions these outcomes would be analyzed. One, the actual outcome, right? Basically, finally, what happened? That is what is the outcome evaluation. That is what you are going to check. Two, what is the kind of impact this program is going to make to the overall organization? That is impact evaluation. Okay. And the third, cost effective and cost benefit, right? What is the impact on the cost? मेरे को क्या, I mean, क्या benefit है? Ultimately, it is all about money, right? So what is the effectiveness of this particular program and what is the benefit that is going to drive from the cost point of view? Fourth one is secondary analysis, right? So, so it is about taking the current data, trying to actually, so currently there is something, you are executing this particular program for the new thing, right? So now you are actually analyzing what this particular new data means with the new, so basically new questions, whatever that are cropping up as an outcome, you are going to check those questions whether they pre-exist with the old data or not, right? With the new methods that you are using are something which are you're going to put the old data and you are actually verifying your outcomes with that particular old data, right? I mean, basically your analysis is more about like, did I actually end up having a new set of problems which are never existing, right? So that is what this is. Meta analysis. Okay, so it is like overall judgment of all these aspects. Okay, so all these outcomes put together is meta-analysis. So these are the five directions summative evaluation does. Again, repeating, first is formative, overall form of your program. Two, implementation, how it is being implemented. Three, summative, which is focusing on outcomes. So these are three types of evaluations that are done. Okay, so now going into stages of program evaluation. So there are three stages. First, needs, right? What is the need for this program? What is the purpose of this program, right? Whether it is really important or not. So this is what is needs. Two, it is talking about planning. So you are going to actually plan whatever that needs to be done as far as your objectives of the program. Does this particular plan in right way? Are there any loopholes to my plan? So this is about fixing how to implement it, right? The third one is collection of data. So now if you have to actually apply right strategy, you need to choose the right program evaluation model, right? And then you need to actually have this program evaluation done using that particular program evaluation model. And based on this particular data, you're going to finalize based on whatever this evaluation comes up with, right? So if evaluation says the overall program, way it is planned, whether it is formative or whether it is implementation or summative. It all depends on whatever the data that you collected really says. Based on that, you will take some actions. Okay, and then finally, whatever the collection of data is done, this is the report. So this is when the data is analyzed based on whatever the findings that are, and then you will actually take it to relevant manager so that these actions can be taken care. Okay, so these are the four stages of program evaluation. One, you are going to actually check on the need. Two, you are going to plan it. Three, you are going to collect the data. Last one is report, finalization of the report. Okay, so these are the four stages of program evaluation. Now coming to models of program evaluation. So just like change models, there are multiple models as far as this program evaluation is concerned. Okay, the kind of questions that are going to come in is, it could be like write any three models of program evaluation, or explain some Jack Philip ROI model, explain this Donald Kirkpatrick model, explain third wave consultancy, explain this return of investment model. So there could be question on any one of these models, or there could be a question which could say that write any three models kind of a thing. So that's sort of the question that could come. So now we are going into 111 model. Okay, first model is about, right? So even before going into, right, I mean, so these are some of the models which you actually choose based on multiple aspects, right? So what is the right model is something as a first step that you actually do before implementing this program evaluation. So these are like multiple models. Depending on your purpose and need, you actually select the model. First thing is Donald Kirkpatrick, right? This mainly focuses on the programs which are associated with learning and training. Okay, so how things would be learned within an organization. He talks about 4 levels. Okay, first level is mainly concentrating on what is the reaction from a employee as soon as training and learning is done. What is his first reaction? Did they enjoy, or did they feel bored, etc.? Next aspect is learning. Did they learn? First of all, did they get any knowledge out of it? That is the second aspect. Okay, third aspect is impact. Okay, fine, they learned something, but did it actually change anything in their behavior? Are they really doing, you know, uh, things in the right way now, right? Based on whatever the learning that happened. The fourth thing is, okay, now they changed, but what for organization? Do we have results? Right? It is questioning entire effectiveness of the training. Right? What for organization? That is level 4, results of it. Reaction, that is first reaction as far as the people who are taking the thing. Second, what exactly they learn, whether they really learned or not. Third, did it really impact? Did it change their particular behavior? Fourth is the results of it. Okay. So what for the organization? So these are the 4 aspects as far as Donald Kirkpatrick is concerned. Okay, so now comes the next model, which is Jack Philip ROI model. First thing is concentrating on learning effectiveness. The second thing is concentrating on return of investment. Okay, so what he told is, okay, don't stop. What for organization? Put one more helmet on top of it. I'll come with one more aspect, which is, okay, fine, organization got impacted. How much revenue I'm going to get? Right? Is my investment paid off? Maybe organization got impacted, but I spent millions of dollars to do this change, and I'm getting thousands of dollars, let's say. Right? Then this change is useless. Then this particular whatever the investment that I made is useless, right? So this is the direction which Jack Philip ROI talked about. So all the four stages which we talked in the first is applicable here as well. Okay, he named it little different. Yes, first is reaction, second is learning, third is implementation. Okay, there he called as impact. Basically here implementation, but meaning is same. Basically, are participants able to actually implement whatever they learned or not? Right? Impact is also same. And last and final, on top, ROI. So this is what is Jack Philip ROI model. Okay. So now another model, CIPP model. Okay. So so this the name itself talks about what are the four elements in this particular thing, and this is mainly focused on decision making. Okay, so this is mainly focused on decision making, and what is the link of the program to this decision making. Okay, first thing from the from the point of view is context. There are four aspects that it actually talks about. Okay, first is context, right? Is our goals clear? Did we make right decisions from the point of view of context, right? The next, input. In CIPP, C is context, I is input. So are we having right stakeholders? Are we having right tools? Did we get data in the right way? Did we do the research? What are the things that went into this particular entire change, or whatever the process that we are talking about? So whatever the program that we talked about, are inputs right? Right? And the third aspect is process. How we are implementing it, right? Did we take decision in the right way from the process point of view, right? So are we collecting feedback in the right way? Are we implementing this particular entire program in the right way or not? Okay, now the last aspect is outcome. Did we judge outcomes in the right way? Did we take decisions on the outcomes in the right way? Right? Is it delivering right outcomes? So all the four aspects, which is first context, second input, third process, fourth and product, CIPP. Okay, until now CIPP model was never asked, because I think by the name of it itself we can remember the pointers. Okay, maybe that is why it was never asked. Okay, so one more model which is very similar to CIPP is CIRO. Okay, I'll come to Kaufman later. I'll cover the CIRO. CIRO is also in a very similar way, but he just talked about the same thing in a different language. That's how I could say. First is context. Second is input. Okay, so he is talking about context as far as these objectives are concerned, whether this vision, need, and all those stuff are in shape or not. Input, do we have sufficient resources? That is what it really is talking about. Okay, do we have sufficient inputs to this particular process? Fourth, okay, reaction evaluation. So this is where little difference he made. Okay, so how people are taking this program, what is their particular reaction to it, right? So what is their particular perspective on the value add, right? How the process that is being implemented. This is more about understanding the reactions on people who are undergoing this particular program. Okay, and the last one is again same, but instead of actually P, which is product, he called it as outcomes. Okay, so it is called a CIRO model. This is also never asked, but it is very similar to CIPP model. Okay, so now going back to Kaufman 5 levels. Okay, this is again from it is mainly to assess training or learning programs. Okay, he came up with a perspective of the learner, whoever is learning it or whoever is getting trained. Okay, so he saw from the perspective of person who is getting trained, Kaufman, right? Like in the other change model, we talked about person who saw from the perspective of from the employees the change model. He saw from the perspective of learner or the trainee, whoever is undergoing. First, input. I'm undergoing the training. Did I get right training materials, right support? Do I have right people to teach? Right? All the inputs to this training program, is it right? Second, process, right? The overall process is acceptable, whether it is efficient or not. Third is acquisition, right? So whether whatever the degree to which, I mean, basically it is like, did I grasp something out of it? Are these learnings going to help me to do a particular job? Can I apply these particular things? Right? That is acquisition. The fourth is payoff. Will this improve my performance? And how by how much it is going to improve the performance? Right? Some kind of a cost benefit analysis from the point of view of payoff. Right? Will I get promoted? Will I actually do this particular now? I'll start doing this particular job very easily. Now this is going to be a good skill. So can I actually find good job outside? Something like that. Right? So outcomes. Okay. So now this is about what for the society, what for the bigger goal. Okay. How I can contribute to overall society. So these are the 5 things which Kaufman evaluation talks about. And these are all from the perspective of trainee, whoever undergoing that particular training. Okay. So the last model is third wave consultancy model. Okay. So this is kind of an extension to Wisport 6-box diagnosis, right? We talked about the diagnosis, 6 important aspects from Wisport 6-box model, right? So after 10 years of that particular thing, so this third wave consultancy is something which actually came into picture. Okay, so it is what it is now you would have heard about 3 waves that the entire world has gone through, right? One is agriculture revolution. It started with agriculture revolution. Then I think in World War II or something like that, before World War II, there is something like industrial revolution. Okay. So now what he is saying is, now world is undergoing information and technology revolution as a third wave. Okay. So so basically what third wave consultant is going to do is going to actually analyze and make sure the industries are actually going through this particular third wave, right? So what are the actions as a whole system should do so that its future is secured? How my structuring should happen to make sure that I pass through this third wave, right? There is a continuous change that is happening as far as this information is concerned, as far as this technology is concerned, right? The whole thing is, okay, yes, industries are going through this third wave, and third wave consultant is the one who is going to help the whole system to actually go through this future thinking, restructuring, and all those stuff to pass through this particular third wave. Okay, and it is more goal oriented view. So it is like you are actually setting your future goals, right? And it also evaluating the current organization where you are as far as your current state is concerned and aligning to future goals. That is what third wave consulting is. Okay, so this completes unit 4 as well. Okay, so quick recap. If I talk about, first thing is we understood what is program evaluation. Then we understood 3 types of evaluation. Okay, so 3 types are formative, which is checking the form, overall form of it, and then implementation of it, and then summative, which is outcomes of it. And then we went through stages of program evaluation where it starts with needs, that is vision and other things which are being aligned, and then planning, collecting the data, finalizing the report and presenting back to the right people. Then we went through series of models, which are like 6 models in total. Donald Crickpack model, which is actually concentrating on learning. It talks about 4 levels of it. Then we went into Jack Philip ROI model. He added helmet. He kept a helmet on top of Crickpack and say was talk about money as well. Okay, so he put money and talking about how much you are actually getting back as far as return on investment is concerned. Then CIPP. So this is actually context, input, program, and product. These are the four aspects that it talked about. Then we went to CIRO model, which is similar to CIPP, except that R is that reaction and O is the outcome. Okay. So then we went to Kaufman, 5 levels of evolution. Okay. And last one is third wave, consulting. This is all we learned in this unit.